Welcome to the Golf Improvement Podcast, Episode 6.
Welcome to the podcast for golf lovers and enthusiasts who are looking to take their games to new heights. Dedicated to custom club fitting, short game improvement, and effective practice to improve your golf game. This is the Golf Improvement Podcast with your host, Tony Wright.
Hello, this is Tony Wright from Game Improvement Golf in Oak Ridge, Tennessee, with the Golf Improvement Podcast, dedicated to bringing you useful information on custom club fitting, short game improvement, and effective practice techniques to take your game to new heights. Today, I hope you'll enjoy the interview I did with Martens, a good friend and a professional club fitter who has a retail golf shop in Washington, Pennsylvania. Before I let you hear that interview with Mark, I wanted to share with you the results of a little survey I recently did. There was an article in Golf World magazine a few weeks ago, and it noted the clubs that Martin Keimer plays, what's in the bag. And I had done an article in my newsletter about golf club gapping and being careful that, for example, there's a thing called vanishing loft disease where it looks like a 6-iron hits the ball further because it's actually being made to a loft of a 7-iron, or a 7-iron, a 5-iron. Whereas, the sort of a standard 6-iron loft might be 30 degrees, but some of the newer irons might have lofts of 28 or 27 degrees for 6-irons. So I went on the web and I checked the top 10 money winners on the PGA Tour, and I checked the top 10 money winners on the LPGA Tour. And I went and looked at what the lofts are of the 6-irons that they play. And the results, some of the results were maybe what I expected and some not, but I'll share them with you. For the men, there were actually 2 out of the top 10 players that were playing a little bit stronger lofts, 28.5 degrees in their 6-irons. Actually, there were 4 out of the top 10 playing lofts of 31 degrees, a little bit weaker than I would have thought, and the other 4 playing lofts of 30. For the women, the story was a little bit different. One of the women, well, you might not be surprised, she's probably the big bomber on the LPGA Tour. She plays a 6-iron with a loft of 31 degrees. One of them plays a loft of 30. The other 2 of them played 29 degrees in their 6-iron, and 4 of them played lofts of about 27 or 28 degrees. So I was maybe a little surprised by the women's results, but maybe in retrospect not. I think they're trying to eke out a little bit more distance. But certainly the men are not necessarily buying into on the PGA Tour that they have to really hit the ball farther with these stronger lofted clubs. They are using more traditional clubs, and I suspect they're doing that because when they get down in their wedges, they don't want to have big gaps in the lofts between like their pitching wedge and gap wedge and sand wedge, so they can hit consistent distances. So something for you to pay attention to when you're looking to buy new clubs, and some of the sales pitches that might say you're hitting things further. At least if you are evaluating new clubs, find out what the lofts of those clubs are that you're playing, the test clubs, and be sure you're not just getting that additional distance because what you're hitting may not really be a 6-iron, but it might be a 5-iron.
Taking your game to new heights. www.gameimprovementgolf.com.
Hello, this is Tony Wright with the Golf Improvement Podcast. This morning I'm speaking with Mark Martens, an AGCP Level 10 certified club fitter and owner of a retail golf shop, the Golf Clubs and Repairs Incorporated in McMurray, Pennsylvania. And Mark's a good friend and also my annual AGCP Roundtable roommate. Good morning, Mark.
Morning, Tony.
Very good. Well, yes, you and I had to adjust the levels here a little bit before, but we got it all worked out, so I'm glad about that. So I think I can hear you a lot better. Let's kind of jump in and let you talk a little bit about your story in terms of becoming a club fitter and a retail golf shop owner.
Okay, I imagine I started like a lot of people did. I started golfing after college, but played very sparingly and almost never practiced, maybe 5-6 times a year until my early 30s. But I knew I really loved it. It was it just seemed magical when I'd get out on those smooth green fairways
Yeah.
and greens of a golf course. It was like another world. But I was really terrible. I never took any lessons. I bought whatever clubs I could afford at the time, and I never had any idea about, if the clubs fitted me or didn't fit me. This obviously goes back to the 70s, so it's quite a while ago, back in the steel and wood age.
Yeah, right.
I eventually got in a league, though, in my 30s, and everybody else were better than me, and some of them were really good golfers, and that really opened my eyes to the fact that I wasn't even trying to do the right or correct thing in my golf game. So no wonder I was awful at it. So I started to study the game then, reading golf magazines, started to grip my own clubs, make slight changes. I lengthened a lot of them at the time. I was 6'3" then because I thought that's what I needed. I'm taller and my clubs probably need to be longer.
Yeah.
There was also a pro-am in town at that time, one day a year that I worked at as a volunteer, and watching professionals play up close, a lot of light bulb moments occurred then about, oh, that's what you're supposed to try to do. And later in life, that one phrase right there is something that I see demonstrated every day with golfers that come in my shop. So many golfers aren't even trying to do something the right way.
Yeah.
Then when you add the fact that they usually have clubs that don't fit them properly, you've just made the game, an already difficult game, so much more difficult. So, but that led to me, starting to buy component heads and shafts and build some of my own clubs. Over the years, I did more and more of this till finally I had a good part of our basement full of golf clubs and golf stuff. Then in 2004, a local custom shop owner was looking to sell his shop. I'd been a customer at times, and when I mentioned it to my wife, first words out of her mouth was, well, you need to go see him. I looked at her like, yeah, right.
Wow.
And she says, no, seriously. I says, you love that stuff. You got a basement full of that stuff. You should try that. So we talked for a few months, finally came to terms, and I bought the shop on the last day of 2004 and opened up the 1st of January with the same shop name that had been here in McMurray for 20 years. And now this is my 10th year of doing it myself.
Yeah.
But one of the first things I did was I had a pretty good idea what I did know about, then really more building clubs than the actual fitting part of it. But I also had a pretty good idea what I didn't know. And I thought, well, if I'm going to do this right, I'm going to get the right kind of instruction. So I spent a week at a Golf Works club repair, fitting, and club building school, and immediately joined the Professional Club Makers Society, the old PCS. I joined the Golf Club Makers Association, which at that time was really was a part of the Golfsmith organization.
Yeah.
And later, when it was founded by Roy Nix, I joined the Association of Golf Club Fitting Professionals, the AGCP, and the International Club Makers Guild, both of whom, are former PCS members. And then 5 years ago, I took the time to become a teaching professional through the U.S. Golf Teaching Federation, the USGTF. And all of that only serves to highlight that golf's a real passion for me, and not just playing, but helping other golfers to play better golf through better fitting clubs and better swings.
Wow. Well, we've had a lot of fun at those meetings that we get to go to every year, and I think all of us, like you, over the 10 years, just continually work to try to learn to get better.
Well, you never stop learning in this business, and it's the same in any business, in any career.
Yeah.
All the guys that are in the AGCP, a lot of them are retired. It won't be too many years here, and my wife will be retired. I'll probably continue to do this, in more of a retirement mode than as a 6-day-a-week job, which is what it is for me now, having the shop here and the overhead associated with it.
Sure.
So.
Now, you and I have talked, when we've been together, one of the big things that you have done a lot for golfers is what you call sort of driver retrofitting, and seen a lot of success with that. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I know that's one of the things that a lot of people come into your shop and have done.
And some of that's been by their at their request, but most of it, frankly, I've initiated myself. Generally speaking, I mean, the longer the golf club gets and the lower the loft, the more difficult it is to hit. That explains why short irons and wedges are usually the easiest clubs in our bag to hit, to play with. The driver is, of course, the longest and the lowest lofted club in the bag. Well, back in the days of steel shafts and solid wood heads, the standard length was 43 inches.
Yeah.
A length that was okay, or at least not too hard to handle for most golfers. With the advent of lighter graphite shafts, drivers have grown to much longer lengths, mainly due to manufacturing and retailing convenience, not performance-based. Tom Washon covered this very well in his podcast with you recently, so I'm not going to really belabor that point, but I believe Tom reiterated in there that the average driver length in stores today is about 46 inches. Yet on the PGA Tour, where the best golfers in the world are playing drivers on an average of about 44 and a half inches today. It was just announced by the guys in the booth yesterday at the Travelers Championship that Sergio Garcia, who was in the hunt, is playing a 43 and 3/4 inch driver.
Wow.
He's one of the most consistent tee to green golfers of the last generation.
Yeah.
So drivers have gotten too long for golfers. When I'm fitting drivers, most men end up with a driver somewhere between 43 and 44 and a half inches long. Women, 41 to 43 and a half inches. In my case, I'm 6'2". I'm a fairly low handicap, but my driver's 43 and a half inches long. Any longer than that, my handicap's going to go up because I can't find the center of the club face as often, and I can't hit it as straight or as accurate or as consistently. So when customers come into my shop either complaining about their driver or just asking about it, they almost always leave with a shorter, rebalanced driver that they can now hit much better than they did before. Many of them just come in for a new grip, and then I start asking them questions. If I see they've got an OEM driver that's never been altered, my first question is, how well do you hit this? Most of them start telling me how far, and I say, no, I'm not talking about how far. I'm talking about how well, how straight, how accurate, how consistent you are. The fourth attribute of a golf shot is how far. But those first three things, they're the most important attributes of any golf shot that we can hit. So when they agree to let me shorten their driver, invariably they come back later or even call me on the telephone and say, hey, just wanted to tell you, that was the best thing I ever did with the driver. I am now hitting it so much better than I ever did before. And I've done that literally hundreds of times over the last 10 years with golfers, and it's just one of the lowest hanging fruit, so to speak, in the golf bag is fixing that longest and hardest to hit club for golfers.
Yeah. And as you said, it's fixing it. It's not, it's kind of getting it where it needs to be, right?
That's just exactly. A lot of golfers have come in. Obviously, they bought these at big box stores or over a catalog, but even the fittings that occur there, I mean, they're not equipped in those stores to make changes to those drivers. Not saying that doesn't exist in some big box stores, but we both know that does not happen very often. Not many big box stores with a fitting and what they call a custom area are going to do a lot, if anything, with the length of a driver. They're all using the standard lengths that those clubs come in from the manufacturer, and they're just really working with the golfer and picking the best one that the golfer hits. Well, that's relatively easy, but that's an unfair test. They're not comparing length as a fitting variable, and as you and I know, that's one of the top three most important fitting variables of the 12 that exist for a driver: loft, face angle, and club length. So, but I've only had 3 or 4 golfers out of the hundreds I've done this with that have come back in and requested a club return to its additional length. Shorter drivers save strokes. If they didn't, PGA pros wouldn't be playing drivers that are much shorter than the industry standard of 45 and a half to 46 and a half inches. So
yeah, well, us
just,
little guys get all the get to hit these harder clubs, though, right?
well, that's a real. I've got a real good story for that. When you say little guys, now
Yeah.
you're not short,
Yeah,
but when you say little guys, if you're talking about somebody other than a scratch or plus golfer. I had one fellow in particular come into the shop, and that was just earlier this year, actually. He's not the only story that almost exactly fits, what I'm going to tell you, but he's a perfect example. He was supposedly fitted by a big box store, got the latest and greatest driver, but he couldn't understand why after buying it, he couldn't hit it very well. Now, this guy was about 5'4", so he was short.
yeah.
He was in his 50s, and he had a driver that was 46 and a half inches long. Now, that may as well be a telephone pole for this guy.
Yeah.
He didn't want to invest in a whole new driver, and it had a lot of loft and a closed face angle, so more than likely the club head itself was at least a reasonably good fit for him. So what I did was I talked to him about this and told him why he was probably not hitting the center of the club face and pushing it out there to the right as much as he was, that it was just too long. Just looking at his wrist to floor measurement, that came up with a whole lot shorter driver than what this thing was.
Yeah.
So I shortened that driver by a whole 4 inches.
Oh my!
I don't
yeah.
usually go that far with men, but I did with this guy. I rebalanced it with lead tape on the sole, keeping the swing weight where it needed to be so that the balance of the club was still proper. And I put all of that extra weight on the heel to help him reduce slices and regripped it with a better sized grip because the grip he had on it was too small. He hits that club now well, especially compared to what he was trying to do before. Also, his swing length, or swing speed at both lengths was the same. Now, we're talking 4 inches here.
Yeah.
Usually, a lot of golfers can increase their club head speed with a longer driver. That's why today's drivers tend to be as long as they are. They're trying to advertise distance, and more distance. But he had an early release, so he wasn't really working the club at the bottom of the swing where the ball was to really increase his club head speed. So when he can swing at the same club head speed, 4 inches shorter, but hit the center of the club face and control his swing path and face angle, he's in the fairway and actually hitting it farther on average than he was when it was much longer. Eventually, after about a month or so, he came back in and said, "Hey, you think this would work for the rest of my clubs?" Because he was playing, not surprisingly, off the rack, standard length clubs that were on the iron side and fairway wood side about an inch longer than they should have been for him. But drivers have gotten exponentially longer than the rest of the bag over the years because of this emphasis on distance. So I've adjusted hundreds of OEM drivers for golfers over the years and improved their driving performance. In many cases, a whole new driver would have been best, but at least getting the length right dramatically improves that club's performance for so many golfers.
Yeah. Wow, that's a great set of stories. Particularly 4 inches. I don't think I've ever reduced one that much.
Well, I maybe shouldn't have mentioned that because usually I'm cutting him down between 1.5 inches to 3 inches.
Sure.
This guy was really short and he was really playing that ball way, way, way out there, where it changed his swing plane totally, and now he's got his swing plane improves when he's playing that ball closer to him because as you know, we want to play each shot with the ball as close to us as possible, not as far away.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Mark, any other stories, success type stories you want to share related to some of your customers today?
Well, a lot of obviously I do a lot of repairs and do a lot of grips in my shop. I keep compared to most of my AGCP ICG brethren, I've got more grips in stock here than big box stores do. No, I don't have cases of them, but I've
Yeah.
got 15 to 20, so I can handle them, and then I order as I need them several times a week from my suppliers. Uh, but when someone comes into the shop for grips or repairs, and then I start mentioning the value of custom fitting, a lot of them respond that, oh, well, it's the Archer, it's not the Arrow, I'm not good enough for custom clubs,
Yeah.
all those things. Well, Tom covered some of that in especially the dichotomy of your handicap level and your need for custom clubs. And it's actually the reverse of what most people think.
Yeah.
You're going to be able to reduce a higher handicap golfer's scores much more than you're going to be able to reduce a scratch golfer's score when they come in the shop. Anybody that can play to scratch can basically play with anything reasonably well.
Yeah.
Because they have that level of skill that mid to high handicappers, usually don't have, unless it's just a matter of they never get a chance to get out. So I asked them how they'd feel on this Archer Arrow thing. I said, hey, that's a real good point. Let me ask you a question. I'll stand you up on this wall over here, my end wall of my shop. It's about 20 feet away, and I'm going to put a big pumpkin on your head. And I'm going to have Robin Hood stand over here 20 foot away with his bow and to put an arrow in that pumpkin. This is a little better than William Tell on an apple because the apple's too small.
Yeah.
So big pumpkin, big target, pretty close. Says, but before he shoots that arrow, you watch me give Robin an arrow that was crooked, half the feathers missing, the rest of them are all askew. How do you feel now?
Yeah.
Because even the best archer has no idea where that arrow is going to go. And that's the point of the arrow versus the archer. Yeah, we all need to be able to swing the club. And our level of, our scoring level will be determined by how well we can do that. But if that arrow doesn't fit you, you've just made the game so much harder. I think Dan Wilt, our club maker friend, another Tennessee club fitter, is actually using that expression, and I can probably make you a better archer, but I can definitely make you a better arrow.
Yeah.
I saw that recently on one of his posts, and he's absolutely right. But I've been telling that story about, either William Tell or Robin Hood for some years now, and then a golfer starts to get it a little bit. Even a crooked arrow, you have no idea where it's going.
Yeah.
So even the worst golfer can improve once they're using equipment that doesn't make their efforts even more difficult.
Yeah, that's a great story. Now, any other things today you want to share with golfers and, other suggestions for them in terms of helping them to improve their game? I know you work a lot on putters and things too, so.
Well, that was, you read my mind, Tony.
How about that? And you know what? And the truth is, people listening to this might think that we scripted that, but I didn't. So there you go, right?
Well, I went through and made notes on all this, the things I wanted to cover, but there are two clubs that I think are the most ill-fitting for most golfers today. And they're the two clubs at the end of the spectrum. One is the driver, and the other is the putter. So many putters are made better just through some simple changes to total weight distribution, the use of a more effective grip. Unfortunately, these type of changes aren't well understood by most golf club salespeople. All of their putter stock is already completely built to a specific length, and usually with the manufacturer's standard size grips. Not many OEM putters come with a grip larger than standard. And although there are some exceptions, there are relatively few today. You know that very well. Just walk in any golf store. You see any putters there that don't have a grip on where the shaft of that club has not been trimmed at all, and it looks pretty long. Well, in my shop, even though I've got a number of OEM brands, my relationship with them, Odyssey, Rife, Heavy Putter, Seymour, and so forth, I'm only carrying their putters if I can be a fitting center for them. So they ship all their putters to me, ungripped, untrimmed, which allows me to adjust that club much easier for the golfer. So I have an inventory of fitting putters that test for the correct length, correct weight, correct balance, and the proper grip. As a general rule, most golfers can improve their putting with more weight, a higher balance point, which involves counterweighting,
Yeah.
And larger grips. Counterweighting raises the putter's balance point closer to the hands. Now, this is somewhat contradictory to the swing weight principle, but it's why a lot of us club fitters pay no attention to swing weight with putters.
Yeah.
We're looking at total weight and the balance of the club. And actually moving that balance point closer to the hands gives a golfer more control of the club head. More weight aids in making a smoother putting stroke and can keep the hands from getting too involved. Larger grips also help in keeping the hands quiet, which is one of the most frequent causes of poor putting. Golfers that flip or rotate their wrist through the putting stroke.
Yeah.
A couple of golfers that I work with now from a lesson standpoint, that rotating the wrists at right before impact and after impact, that right hand is just turning over. And so I've worked on it and improved that tendency with them by putting a lot of extra weight under the hand and putting a much larger grip on there. So generally, the two most ill-fitting clubs in most people's bags are the driver and putter. The driver sets up our approach shots to the green, and the putter only accounts for 40 to 45% of our score. So
Yeah.
After fixing those two clubs, the best game improvement area might be the golfer's ability to chip and pitch, other than those two things.
Yeah.
But getting putters fitted right, finding a putter that's the right shape for a golfer, because most golfers will have a definite preference, or at least they will be able to aim and stroke a putter with a certain shape, a certain size, and whose lines or alignment aids, do a certain thing. And that's a really exciting area today, I think, because there's so many putters now that there's more diversity of putters than any other club in the bag easily. I know you just became a Seymour putter fitting center,
right.
The same as I did.
Yeah.
Earlier this spring, and they've got a unique alignment, serious alignment tool on all of their putters. The Odyssey line with their new Versa line, the two big contrasting white-black colors that can either go parallel or perpendicular to your line, depending on which model you want to have. A golfer's going to find one or more of those that he'll putt easier with than just about anything else. So there is a lot of trial and error there involved, but the weighting, the length, the gripping thing, you can fit anybody's putter without them necessarily having to buy a new putter and improve their putting.
Yeah.
And that's what I tell golfers. Hey, do you like your putter? I said, well, what do you mean? I said, what I mean is, do you like it? Is there anything about it that bothers you or that you don't like? And it's surprising how many golfers will play with the club where they feel that way about them. And I think back to, it's probably been 50, maybe even 60 years, an old Arnold Palmer quote: 90% of the game of golf is played from the shoulders up. I tell golfers,
Yeah.
If there's anything about a club you have in your bag that you don't like, that club doesn't belong in your bag. Take it out right now, or let's replace it with something that that fits you better, that isn't going to get in your way. And with a putter in particular, a lot of golfers like their putter, but the thing is too light, especially the older it is.
Yeah.
Everybody's making their putter heads heavier than they used to years ago.
Yeah.
And they're also now making them shorter in many cases than they used to. I told one golfer a story that I'd heard many years ago from somebody that was on the manufacturing side. Why did putters start out to be 36 and then 35 inches long? Simple. They fit in the bag that way.
That's a funny story. I've heard that a number of times.
The bottom of the club, not touching the bag. Talk about a silly way to build a golf club, based on the convenience of how it fits in the bag. And truth be told, a lot of putters now with these larger grips, golfers are having a little bit of trouble with some bags getting them to fit in there. So I even have a simple little $4 plastic tool that can fit on the outside of your golf bag that you can set the putter in, if you don't have a bag that oversized grip fits in particularly well. But don't let the tail wag the dog. There really is the lesson for all of us.
Yeah. Well, Mark, this has been a lot of fun today. I'm glad that you agreed to do this with me. I'm going to say a few things here again, but we're going to see you, I guess, in about 2 months or so. So it's going to be fun again down in Columbus, Ohio. So not Columbus, Ohio, Columbus, Georgia. Aha.
Already looking forward to it.
Yeah.
The highlight of my year is it's continuing education.
Yeah, it's really important. Well, to find out more about golf clubs and repairs in McMurray, Pennsylvania, go to www.golfclubsandrepairs.com. And Mark, I think golfers who get to listen to this today will find out a lot of good information to help them play their best golf. And that's, that juices all of us. That's one of the things that we have a lot of fun with. So,
well, passion is the word. Tom Wishon certainly has it, and that came out in last week's podcast, and it's been a passion for me, and one of the reasons why Tom is the most popular club maker in my shop over the years.
Yes, that's for sure.
In addition to the other lines that I carry, he just builds some great stuff, but it's got to fit the golfer, and if it doesn't, you're just making a hard game much more difficult. So that's what really makes you feel good when a golfer comes back and say, hey, I'm scoring 4 or 5 shots better, and he knows it's because of his equipment right now.
Yeah.
Legitimately. So.
Well, Mark, thanks again, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you, Tony. Looking forward to October in Columbus.
Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Again, thanks again, Mark. I appreciate that interview. You can learn more about Mark Martens and golf clubs and repairs at www.golfclubsandrepairs.com. For those of you that might be interested, my next monthly golf improvement newsletter will be sent to subscribers tomorrow on the 15th. If you want to sign up to receive this, there is a link to it on my website homepage. And that's it for today. In 2 weeks, I'll be talking with Keith Chatham, an AGCP master club fitter, and one of those people that a lot of us in the club fitting world listen to. He's really been very helpful. We'll focus on how to help senior golfers to play their best golf. See you then.
Game Improvement Golf, your source of information and inspiration to become an exceptional golfer now. www.gameimprovementgolf.com